Now when the Lord spoke to Moses in Egypt, he said to him, I am the Lord. As again, that's at all capital letters, Lord. Tell Pharaoh, king of Egypt, everything I tell you. But Moses said to the Lord, since I speak with faltering lips, why would Pharaoh listen to me? So we're resuming the narrative that we had back at the end of, before we got to the family records. Like I said, this whole first half of Exodus, when they're going in and out of Egypt, is kind of written weirdly, because we'll have this basic sequence of events going on, but we'll also have these interruptions. We just saw one here with these family records, and we're going to have more of these interruptions from time to time as we talk about other things. Then the Lord said to Moses, see, I have made you like God to Pharaoh, and your brother Aaron will be your prophet. A prophet was someone who spoke for God. That's ultimately all a prophet is. Whatever their message is, a prophet is someone who speaks God's message. We think of a prophet as being someone who tells the future. Now, sometimes prophets did do that. But a prophet, ultimately, sometimes the message God spoke through the prophets was about the future. But fundamentally, the purpose of a prophet was to speak the message of God. So Aaron is Moses' prophet. He is speaking Moses' message. And Moses is like God to Pharaoh. Moses is not God. Moses is not even like God. But he is like God to Pharaoh, and Aaron is like his prophet. That's the illustration that's being presented here. You are to say everything I command you, and your brother Aaron is to tell Pharaoh to let the Israelites go out of his country. But I will harden Pharaoh's heart. And though I multiply my miraculous signs and wonders in Egypt, he will not listen to you. Then I will lay my hand on Egypt, and with mighty acts of judgment I will bring out my divisions, my people, the Israelites. And the Egyptians will know that I am the Lord, when I stretch out my hand against Egypt and bring the Israelites out of it. Moses and Aaron did just as the Lord commanded them. Moses was 80 years old, and Aaron was 83 when they spoke to Pharaoh. So we again are seeing God working primarily through a younger brother. Aaron was older than Moses. Miriam was older than Aaron, even, but she was a sister. I said how throughout the book of Genesis we constantly saw a pattern of God choosing someone other than the firstborn son to be the one he worked with in that generation. Mankind wanted it to be the firstborn son. They always wanted to be the first one to come out of the womb. But God typically, in almost every instance except for Tamar's sons, God chose someone other than the firstborn son, the actual literal firstborn son. And he's still doing it here because Moses is not the firstborn son. Aaron is. Presumably, I don't think they had any other kids. We don't hear of any, well, Miriam, the sister. We don't hear of any other sons that Amram and Jochebed had except for Moses and Aaron. And Aaron was older than Moses. But again, God is choosing the younger of the two to work with as his primary person. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, when Pharaoh says to you, perform a miracle, then say to Aaron, take your staff and throw it down before Pharaoh, and it will become a snake. So Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh and did just as the Lord commanded. Aaron threw his staff down. Now again, they're going back and forth between Pharaoh and their own people frequently here. Which is another clue as to when we can look for this event to be happening. Because it has to be happening with the Pharaoh whose capital is in northern Egypt, near where the Israelites are, because of the constant going back and forth between them. We're not talking about a Pharaoh whose capital is in the south or even in the central area. His capital is up right next to where the Israelites are. Aaron threw his staff down in front of Pharaoh and his officials, and it became a snake. Pharaoh then summoned wise men and sorcerers, and the Egyptian magicians also did the same thing by their secret arts. Don't know how. Don't know if we're talking about modern day smoke and mirrors type magic and illusions, or if they actually tapped into demonic powers. I don't know. Each one threw down his staff and it became a snake. But Aaron's staff swallowed up their staffs. Yet Pharaoh's heart became hard, and he would not listen to them, just as the Lord had said. Then the Lord said to Moses, Pharaoh's heart is unyielding, and he refuses to let my people go. Go to Pharaoh in the morning as he goes out to the water. Wait on the bank of the Nile to meet him, and take in your hand the staff that was changed into a snake. Then say to him, the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, has sent me to say to you, let my people go, so that they may worship me in the desert. But until now you have not listened. This is what the Lord... Now, this is actually kind of interesting, because they're not telling Pharaoh that they're actually planning on leaving and never coming back. Okay, God has been up front with Moses that they're going back to the land. They're going back to Canaan. This is where God told Abraham he would settle them. He said he'd bring them out in the fourth generation after they went down. It's that time. Everything, all the conditions are right. All the conditions have been met. It's time for them to go back. So when they leave Egypt, they are not going back to Egypt. But they're not telling Pharaoh that. They're telling Pharaoh they want to take a 3-day trip out to the desert and then come back. So what do you think about this? Is this a lie? Would you consider this to be a lie? I think it's a test. God knows full well, Moses knows full well, that Pharaoh is not going to say yes. He's not even going to say yes to a 3-day trip into the desert and return, let alone yes to being let go, period. So they're testing him. Are they lying to him? Are they deceiving him? Well, they're not telling him their full intentions, but they are testing him. He's failing the test. He's failing the lesser test. He's not letting them take a 3-day trip into the desert to worship their God. If he can't pass that test, he's not going to pass the greater test of letting them go from his land completely. This is what the Lord says. By this you will know that I am the Lord. These are all capital L-O-R-D Lords here, by the way. Oh, excuse me, wow. With the staff that is in my hand, I will strike the water of the Nile, and it will be changed into blood. The fish in the Nile will die, and the river will stink. The Egyptians will not be able to drink its water. The Lord said to The Lord said to Moses, I was combining 3 different words there. I was combining Moses, Pharaoh, and Aaron, and I got Marrow. The Lord said to Moses, tell Aaron, take your staff and stretch out your hand over the waters of Egypt, over the streams and canals, over the ponds and all the reservoirs, and they will turn to blood. Blood will be everywhere in Egypt, even in the wooden buckets and the stone jars. Moses and Aaron did just as the Lord had commanded. He raised his staff in the presence of Pharaoh and his officials, and struck the water of the Nile, and all the water was changed into blood. The fish in the Nile died, and the river smelled so bad that the Egyptians could not drink its water. Blood was everywhere in Egypt. But the Egyptian magicians did the same thing by their secret arts. And Pharaoh's heart became hard. He would not listen to Moses and Aaron, just as the Lord had said. Instead, he turned it, so Pharaoh's hardening his own heart here. God is not hardening Pharaoh's heart at this point in time. Pharaoh is hardening his own heart. Now, God knew he would do that. He told Moses he would do that. But God is not making him do that. Instead, he turned and went into his palace, and did not even take this to heart. And the Egyptians dug along the Nile to get drinking water, because they could not drink the water of the river. So in the underground wells and the underground springs, the water was still good. It was only in the Nile and its tributaries, or whatever, that the water turned bad. So the water that came from the Nile, the water that was in the Nile system, whether in the Nile River itself or in its tributaries or in its canals, or that they had scooped out and were putting in buckets and jars, that water turned to blood. But the water in the groundwater was not blood. I don't know how long it stays that way. It says here in the next verse, 7 days are going to pass. I'm not sure if I'm not sure how long these conditions are lasting, from plague to plague. 7 days passed after the Lord struck the Nile. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Go to Pharaoh and say to him, 'This is what the Lord says. Let my people go, so they may worship me. If you refuse to let them go, I will plague your whole country with frogs. The Nile will teem with frogs. They will come up into your palace and your bedroom and onto your bed, into the houses of your officials and on your people, and into your ovens and kneading troughs. The frogs will go up on you and your people and all your officials.'" Then the Lord said to Moses, "Tell Aaron, stretch out your hand with your staff over the streams and canals and ponds, and make frogs come up on the land of Egypt." So Aaron stretched out his hand over the waters of Egypt, and the frogs came up and covered the land. But the magicians did the same things by their secret arts. They also made frogs come up in the land of Egypt. I don't know, do they just have a bunch of frogs they have stored? I don't know if these magicians are like our modern day magicians where they just do things with sleight of hand and smoke and mirror and misdirection and things like that, or if these are actual like tapping into demonic power sort of. I don't know. I have no idea. At any rate, so far they've been able to match Moses and Aaron's stunts, their signs, with their own stunts. But I guess they can't make the frogs go away because of what Pharaoh's about to say here. Pharaoh summoned Moses and Aaron and said, "Pray to the Lord to take the frogs away from me and my people, and I will let your people go to offer sacrifices to the Lord." Moses said to Pharaoh, "I leave to you the honor of setting the time for me to pray for you and your officials and your people, that you and your houses may be rid of the frogs, except for those that remain in the Nile. Tomorrow," Pharaoh said. Moses replied, "It will be as you say, so that you may know there is no one like the Lord our God." So they're going to do this on Pharaoh's timetable. They're going to let Pharaoh decide when this plague gets reversed. "The frogs will leave you and your houses, your officials and your people. They will remain only in the Nile." Now, I don't know if they came up out of the Nile when the river turned blood. You know, frogs aren't like fish. They can live on land. So maybe they were in the Nile when the river turned to blood and they got out of the Nile, unlike fish, which couldn't. I'm not sure. Or if they just came, you know. Are these existing fish, or frogs, I should say? Were these frogs that were already alive in the Nile? Or did God just, make a bunch of frogs and send them on the land? I don't know. This one seems like it'd be more of a nuisance and a hassle than a serious... Some of these things later on are going to be very, very destructive in nature. This one seems like it would be more of just a pest and a menace than a serious destructive threat. I don't know. After Moses and Aaron left Pharaoh, Moses cried out to the Lord about the frogs he had brought on Pharaoh. And the Lord did what Moses asked. The frogs died in the houses, in the courtyards, and in the fields. They were piled into heaps, and the land reeked of them. Ugh, that's a menace right there. That's a health menace. But when Pharaoh saw there was relief, he hardened his heart and would not listen to Moses and Aaron, just as the Lord had said. So the plague is continuing, in other words. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Tell Aaron, stretch out your staff and strike the dust of the ground, and throughout the land of Egypt the dust will become gnats." They did this, and when Aaron stretched out his staff, and his hand with the staff, and struck the dust of the ground, gnats came upon them, and men and animals. All the dust throughout the land of Egypt became gnats. But when the magicians tried to produce gnats by their secret arts, they could not. And the gnats were on men and animals, so they have been outclassed. They are keeping up with Moses up through the plague of frogs. They couldn't get rid of the frogs, however. They could produce frogs somehow or another, but they couldn't get rid of them. So that was when they first started getting outclassed. I mean, their snakes got eaten by Aaron's snakes in the beginning. But now they can no longer keep producing the same things that Moses and Aaron are producing through the power of God. When the gnats were on men and animals, the magician said to Pharaoh, "This is the finger of God." But Pharaoh's heart was hard, and he would not listen, just as the Lord had said. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Get up early in the morning and confront Pharaoh as he goes to the water, and say to him." So this was clearly Pharaoh's habit, to go to the Nile every day. I'm guessing it's back to being water again now, because they're not talking about it being blood. This is what the Lord says: "Let my people go, so that they may worship me. If you do not let my people go, I will send swarms of flies on you and your officials, on your people, and into your houses. The houses of the Egyptians will be full of flies, and even the ground where they are." So you go from gnats to flies. "But on that day I will deal differently with the land of Goshen, where my people live. No swarms of flies will be there, so that you will know that I, the Lord, am in that land. I'll make a distinction between my people and your people. This miraculous sign will occur tomorrow." And the Lord did this. Dense swarms of flies poured into Pharaoh's palace and into the houses of his officials, and throughout Egypt the land was ruined by the flies. Then Pharaoh summoned Moses and Aaron and said, "Go, sacrifice to your God here in the land." He's nudging. He's saying, do it here in this land. He's not letting them leave. But Moses said, "That would not be right. The sacrifices we offer the Lord our God are detestable to the Egyptians. And if we offer sacrifices that are detestable in their eyes, will they not stone us? We must take a 3-day journey into the desert to offer sacrifices to the Lord our God, as he commands us." Pharaoh said, "I will let you go to offer sacrifices to the Lord your God in the desert, but you must not go very far. Now pray for me." Moses answered, "As soon as I leave you, I will pray to the Lord, and tomorrow the flies will leave Pharaoh and his officials and his people. Only be sure that Pharaoh does not act deceitfully again by not letting the people go to offer sacrifices to the Lord." Then Moses left Pharaoh and prayed to the Lord, and the Lord did what Moses asked. The flies left Pharaoh and his officials and his people. Not a fly remained. But this time Pharaoh also hardened his heart, and he would not let the people go.